So how did you get to where you are?
So I've actually the I launched my business, like went down to the city hall and got my little DBA piece of paper I think 9 years ago. So it's been a while and it has been a struggle. So I got to where I am by crying and overeating and and having lots of friends and business buddies. But in truth, um, I think that the best things that I've done and the things that I look to as, having gotten to where I am were moments where I really sunk into what mattered to me and what I felt called to express and to put into the world and what I wanted to see reflected in the world. And as that and all the other things that have gotten me here were lots and lots of mistakes and falling flat on my face and trying to copy other people and trying to do what they do and trying to do this. And that all got me here because it got me closer to my truth. So lots and lots of trial and error, put it that way.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those things that you tried. Like, what would you say is something that you tried, like as far as copying other people? Can you give any examples of things like that you can think of from the past?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones was in the very beginning, I started doing business coaching because the work that I do can help people with messaging and clarity around what they want to offer. And so I got really caught up in like, oh, well, I can help you with that, which seemed very natural and innocent. But then it ended up in this sort of like, wait, am I business coaching? Because I don't feel qualified for that. And I don't feel like I should be doing this. And then I felt that fraud come in, but I was already in the online business coaching world. So here we go. And it just became, yeah, it got really messy. So that was a big one in the beginning. And to be honest, I think even getting caught up in being a coach has been really difficult for me because that's not what I necessarily set out and intended to do. So even just the online coaching world where, we're helping people with some like, you fix this and then all life will be blissful, which I truly believe there's a lot of things we can fix and life will be blissful, but that doesn't mean, the specific packaging or the way that we go about it or the language that we use. I definitely absorb and end up being like a chameleon that just sort of sucks into whoever I'm following and reading. So I notice myself changing language and changing imagery and changing approach and changing my energy and my tone. And there's one post that really stands out from years ago. I was in Vegas and I used to email my list every single day. And I have an email that was titled like why I'm here and you're not. And it wasn't my energy. And it just stands out in my memory because I'm like, oh, I can't believe I used that sort of like weird competitive language that works perfectly for other people, but just wasn't me.
That's
So
a really good
definitely not
example.
knowing myself that much.
Yeah, that's a really good example. And that doesn't feel like you.
No,
To
exactly.
me.
Exactly. And the whole point of the post was like, sometimes we have to stretch ourselves and that, it became me, but just the tone and the way I went about it and like, I'm going to be this strong and tough. Like, it's just, I have lots of sides, but that's not one of them.
Yeah, we had it on the list to talk about bro marketing. We can talk about that in relationship to ads as well, but like I'm thinking of a time I did something similar when I was more in your type of space with the meditation, spirituality type of topics and offers. And I followed, what the heck is that guy's name? Ryan Dice or somebody like that. He's like a OG father of bro marketers. And he had a something with an email sequence where that it was really laid out. I mean, it was kind of like I definitely don't love this for me anymore, but it was almost like a Mad Libs
Oh
email
yeah.
template where you basically use the words and fill in your, to fill in the blank with your expertise. And I do remember doing that. Like he had this all laid out and there was an email kind of with that kind of vibe in there. And I just went for it because I was like, well, this works, or, we know this works, right? And I definitely got replies from people being like, because it was supposed to be giving people a choice, like join this, like, and there was FOMO, fear of missing out. I forget, but it was kind of like, you haven't joined this yet. Why not? Let's go. And yeah, it was but it was not right for me and my audience, and the progression of things. And people were writing back like, I'm sorry, I haven't joined yet.
Oh, that's so sad.
Feeling bad. I was like, well, this was not my intention to make people feel ashamed of themselves or need to apologize to me that they didn't buy my course. Like,
I think that's one of the biggest things, like the shame-based selling is so pervasive. And I don't necessarily notice it when I'm in the flow of it because I'm feeling the shame and internalizing it. So I'm not noticing it. And as soon as I sort of just pause and take a break, whether it's from social media or take a vacation or what, and I come back and I go, oh, wait, no. And then I see it and how I've done it and how it's just seeped into what I think has to be what sales are. And yeah, there's so many other ways. And so I'm grateful I did ads with you. And yeah, but the shame is pervasive. The shaming is pervasive.
Yeah, it's what did you just say? You said internalized it. Like that's why I don't even notice it, because I assume it's me, like I'm not even, like, I've been trying to notice that lately when I am reading other people's stuff, because whenever I'm on Instagram and Facebook, I get ads from other Instagram and Facebook people who are like basically my competitors. And it's hard for me not to look at what they're doing. And then sometimes I will start getting there where I'm like, oh no, I'm doing it wrong, And
Well,
then
exactly.
I'm like, okay, wait a second. Like, this isn't feeling good. Let's keep scrolling. I'm not doing anything wrong,
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. And then I see people, it's been a long 10 years. Like I see people who are way more successful than me, and well, they must be doing it right. Like that must be the way to do it. That it must just be when you're in that zone and you have that level of influence, that's the natural energy you're in. So my energy must just be wrong and different and not really a business owner's energy. Like, oh, it's just, that spiral goes down really far.
Yeah. So I think I'd say that's a good thing to pay attention to, for people listening, when you're thinking about your own messaging and marketing. Like, if you're reading other people's stuff to like get ideas or inspiration, like watch out for that. If you start feeling bad, like a shame kind of feeling, or like you feel small, or you feel, doubtful, like that's probably not helping you. And you don't want to, I don't want to provide that for other people either. I mean, sometimes you can't always help how people feel reading your stuff either, but like, I don't want to do that on purpose,
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed I really have to, like, what's been working for me lately is to feel inspired and to feel like I know what I want to share, and to feel like I have things I want to post and put out there and talk about. Being on social media doesn't necessarily inspire me at the moment, but like watching a nature documentary, or there's a talk coming up by a woman who won a Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm like, that I am going to that. And I could feel myself just be totally flushed and filled with excitement. And I was like, oh, right. I care about things way outside of this tiny little realm of social media that I allow myself to check 1,000 times a day. So let's remember the wholeness of me as a human. And when I tap into that wholeness and actually, let myself be a big, full person, then I get all the inspiration going, and I feel like, oh yeah, okay, this is fun. Let's come play and express in this playground where we all get to share what's on our minds. But I don't necessarily find inspiration there as easily. And I think it's because of the comparison and just the way that I at least feel like, oh, I would say that differently. Oh, I would say, oh, but I'm not saying it at all. Right. And then I just go down the drain, down the shame drain.
Yes. I think we're both well aware of the shame train, how it spirals.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you remember when at least for me growing up, we'd go to the mall and they had those it looked like a big plastic tornado, and you'd put a penny in it and the penny would just slowly roll around the big funnel until it got to the bottom and went really fast going down the loop. Anyway, that's my little shame drain. True. It starts big and expansive, and then you drop down the center.
Yes, totally. Okay, so I want to ask you two questions, kind of big picture about your business, and then we can talk a little bit more about the ads you've tried and things like that. So the first one is, what are you proudest about from your business? Like, what's your proudest accomplishment so far?
I think that that's a two-part answer in the sense that I run a business by myself. So I am most proud personally for me that I wrote something that looks like a book. It's a journal, but it looks like a book. I don't want to call it my book and, make people confused, but I am most proud that I actually did it. I finished it. But as a business, I'm most proud of the people who I'm able to help and the changes that they've made. Like that just blows my mind every single day.
Yeah, for sure. You'll have to send me the link to your book, by the way, for the show notes of this episode too.
I will. It's an awesome process. It is a journal, not a full book. So don't get excited for 300 pages, but it is a process that works.
Yes, I have it. I love it. It's on my shelf right behind me. So what about second question? So those are some of your proudest things. Did you ever have like a low point, like kind of like a dark night of the soul where you were like, do I keep going or do I quit? And how did you decide to move forward?
So you know me and you know that every day is the dark night of the soul for me. And I think that's, I work with dark night of the soul. That's sort of what I do. And so I spend a lot of time there. I think two of the big ones that stand out for me were the beginning of COVID. So April, May of 2020, if that was the right year, they all merged together for me. Because I just started to grow in February and March, and I brought on my first team member, and it was awesome. And then March 18th of 2020, it just all imploded. And so after that feeling of like, why can't I ever get traction? And is this me? And other people are still succeeding here, but I seem to be going in the opposite direction, again, all the comparison. So that was really a very dark space. And to me, actually, the best part of that was that's when I wrote the journal, because I was like, well, I have nothing left to lose. Like I no longer have to play the game of everything I think I should be doing. And so I'm just going to do the thing I actually care about and putting out in the world. And so that's when I finally let myself write the journal after 10 years of trying and wanting to share it. So it was a really big blessing to take that off. And I think the other time was last year, the one that really stands out for me, because I had a lot of success with ads, as you know. It was a really exciting time. I grew, and then I made a bad investment and I spent all the money and I couldn't keep doing ads. And so I lost that growth and I was exhausted after holding a bunch of challenges. And then I just, I took it really personally, like, this is my fault. I did this. Why can't I sustain it? Why can't I have made it happen? Why did I have to crash? Why do I right? Like, and so there was a lot of deep healing and being with trauma that was already present in my nervous system, but also the anger and the frustration of, well, why couldn't I keep going? Why did this happen to me? Why aren't I keeping it? And should I just quit? And should I just quit because clearly I'm not built for this, either because I'm too broken or too traumatized or don't have the capacity to keep it going. But it was pretty dark. It was pretty dark. And I think it's still pretty dark on and off.
Yeah, I think you're right. You have these kind of like dips, highs and lows, and that's totally normal. And some days it's like, oh my gosh, should I keep doing this? But then there's also those bigger moments like you're describing in the last couple of years where it's like a more sustained like month or 2 or 3 or however long where you're like, oh shoot, maybe I'm doing everything wrong. Maybe I should quit
Yeah.
now. Maybe I should go get a job or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you're in those places, like for me, at least when I'm in those places, it's in some ways, it doesn't matter how many clients I sign because I've convinced myself that it's not working. I've convinced myself that like I blew it. So in retrospect, I did fine last year and the end of the year was fine. But in my mind, I'm like, but it wasn't what it was, I just, whatever expectation I had built up for myself. And so it's not all based in what's happening. So much, I think it is, for at least for my businesses, is the sort of vision of perfection that I have and the way I hold my business against that vision of what it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a hard bar to meet, especially when that bar keeps moving. Because I see other people getting bigger and bigger and better and better and better. So it should be getting bigger and bigger and better and better, right? Like, so the goalposts keep moving, and the goalposts are shiny, perfect world and not, a whole human who's trying to also navigate other things in my life, because the business isn't the only thing that I have going on.
Right. I wanted to go back to, you said so many things, and I was like, I want to ask more about do you think that the process, like, so back in 2020, when you're kind of hitting a low point and then you decided to do the book, like, do you think the book like brought you out of that low point? Like, which, you know what I'm saying? Like, was it the chicken or the egg? Was it like you hit the low point, so you did the book, or you did the book and then it helped move through the low point? Or like, how did that work in your mind?
I think it's probably both. I love that question. Because I think that's really interesting to explore, like for every person. For me, I've noticed that I'm not motivated. I'm not really deeply motivated by fear or like, I'm going to show them or really watch me. I'm motivated by like every single person in my life going like, you're amazing. You can do it. And then I'm like, okay, I feel safe enough. I think I'm going to leap, And so when my business crashed with COVID, I was in a writing group, and that group was like this little incubator of love. And my husband's super supportive, and all the people in my life are super supportive. So I had this really, like, the only word that's coming to mind is cauldron, but that's not a great word. But like this sort of incubator where I was able to strip back the things that I was mad at myself about. Dropping the business, losing the clients. Why did COVID happen? Why didn't I take advantage of, things like that, and able to just come back to, well, what do I really care about? Who do I want to be? And I felt safe to do that. So I think, having that total crash allowed me to strip away all of the pressure I was putting on myself, to be who I should be, and actually focus on what mattered. And then by doing that, it allowed me to come out of it and re-engage in the world, because I felt more connected to myself. All things which are easier to say in retrospect, especially 2 years of retrospect. So I definitely think writing it really helped me feel more confident and engaged, and genuinely excited to be back in the world, because I had something to connect with people about, and I had something to share with people, and then people responded to it, and I got to have real conversations about what they were going through. So it was really cool for lots of reasons.
Yeah, I see a parallel there with me creating this podcast. Is actually a similar kind of origin story of, going through a rough patch in life, wondering like, is this what I should be doing or want to be doing? Kind of asking, like, checking in with myself, and then feeling like motivated and like, okay, let's do this. I need something that makes me feel some new energy and inspiration. Let me start this podcast that I've thought about for a long time. And and that has shifted a lot. Like when I started it, it's only been like a month, 6 weeks since I recorded the first episode. And so many things shifted, just letting myself be creative like that, literally creating something new, gave me so much more energy and motivation and inspiration to share stuff. And then it's provided, like you said too, I see the parallel of providing points of connection with other people, because I'm able to interview people. I'm able to share this. People can listen to me, in the car or whatever. And it just, so I think that we have a recipe here.
Yeah.
How to get through your doubts. Create something you've been meaning to do forever. Just say, fuck it and do it.
Exactly. And it's not logical. That's the thing. Like we both had it in the back, we're like, oh, I'm going to do this. Someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do this. But we're like, oh, but I should be doing this, this, and this first. My priority should be this. And it's like that voice in your head, it might sound illogical, but it's there for a reason. And that's what I've discovered. Like I can't tell from where I am what direction the path is going. That's only something hindsight can give us. But we know that it's going in the direction of what you truly deeply want. We just have to trust the things that don't sound logical.
Right. Yep. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's talk about you touched on a little bit of your journey with Facebook ads. And I know you've tried in several different formats. Can you kind of give us a behind the scenes of the different types of ads you've run, the different ways you've gone about it, and how it's all worked throughout?
Yeah. So I'll just preface this by saying I love ads. I think they're awesome. There's nothing more exciting to me than waking up with new people in my business, and I did nothing. Like it's amazing. It is the best. And it's a big wide world and we need to reach more people. So why wouldn't that be a great thing? So years and years ago, I did like let me run an ad myself. And then they allowed you to boost posts. And I was like, oh, let me boost this. Yeah, that was like a giant waste of time because I didn't learn anything about how to do ads. I was just like, oh, just insert, click button, pay money. No, it's just epic failure. So for me, doing them myself did not work. And I, at this point, do not have the mental, emotional, physical capacity to learn how to do ads. So I'm still not a DIYer. It's not a good space for me. And especially with all the rules and regulations, I would immediately get banned, I'm sure. So we'll just put that one out of there. Like tried it. It was terrible. No. So then years later, I decided I wanted to hire somebody to do ads for me. And I had this belief that if somebody else just like managed my business for me, that I couldn't mess it up. So I wanted to distance myself from it. Like I'll be here behind the scenes doing the work, but like, don't let me mess up the connection piece with people. It was such a weird little belief, but there it was. But because I told myself like, I'm terrible at marketing, I'm terrible at sales, I'm terrible at this. So you do that part for me. And so I hired this company who had copywriters and they did my landing page. They did my copywriting, they did the ads, and they used images that were generic, just pulled off the internet. And they were beautiful. The ads were beautiful and they got really lovely people. But after a little bit, they just weren't me. And I had some current clients, I remember it, like take screenshots and go, is this really what you wanted to have put out there? And that really stuck with me because I was like, oh, okay. And what the screenshots were like happy women, frolicking in the world. Like it wasn't anything unusual or weird or off base for the type of work I do. But their point was like, it just didn't feel very authentic. It just felt more generic than personal. And I do really deep personal work around purpose and inner freedom. So that was a real moment and a real lesson. And so because the ads worked and I was able to start to expand my business, then I got much more excited about connecting with people and was able to work with you. And so with you, we did me. I made the videos. My image was there. It was my stories. I wrote so much of that. You helped with direction and editing and all of that. But really like focusing on me. And I remember fighting with you quite a bit and being like, no, I can't do this. This is horrible. And you were really great about both encouraging, but also shaping and allowing that to birth. And the people I got through those ads were magnificent, like just the most beautiful connections. We did incredible work together. We're still doing incredible work together. And I think it's because I was there. Like it was me and my presence and my energy and everything I wanted to share. And then we were still continuing and I hired someone else for Facebook group work, but part of that was ads. And those ads were memes with very quick words. So like a sentence or two, an invitation to something free. The free thing was super short and small. So not a challenge, not like a video training, not a meditation, but like just a PDF of a couple pages. And the memes were funny and eye catching. But the people who came through that we were just off. We were just off. We weren't focused on the same things. We weren't going deep enough. We weren't getting a feel for each other. Like it just didn't work. So what really stood out to me there was that there are probably plenty of businesses for whom that sort of like hilarious meme style, like catch your attention, sign up quickly for this thing that you're never going to read, work for. My type of work where we do really deep inner, personal transformation, it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit, at least not where I was and am right now. And having somebody like do it all for me, I think is really cool, but I wasn't solid enough in the energy, like who I was, in order to really make that work for me at the time. So having you push me to really get clear and start to figure out how I was going to connect with people and allow myself to show up. And I think, we discovered that ridiculous was good. Like I would wear like ridiculous hats and scarves like that. We could get attention without having to be campy and gamey. And so now I think, even if I did a full done for you service, which I think is a brilliant way to go because it takes so much off your plate. Like I now am much more firm and strong and rooted in what my business would be sharing and how it connects with people. But I wouldn't have gotten there without that support and encouragement to actually allow myself to be the face and to show up.
Yeah, I was just writing, I think in an email in my new email sequence, I mentioned your ad that we did an ad, a retargeting ad when your program was open for enrollment, and you had your dog we were sitting like on the steps of your porch or something like that, or somewhere on steps, and your dog was next to you and started licking your face as you're talking, being like, the program's open, you can join it. And the dog's licking your face and you're like, and you didn't even you might have said, oh, haha, but then you just kept going and the dog was just like loving you, kissing.
Yeah, and it was so easy. Like it was fun. It was fun. And, I thought before that, like it had to be so perfect and I wasn't perfect enough. And it had to be so professional and I wasn't professional enough because I'm just a human, and so to be able to just be a human, it's like, oh, right, I'm connecting with other humans. And I think that's why the people who came in through yours, like we're still working together, a year and a half later, like it was such beautiful connection.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess one thing you had said earlier is we had some success and then you went a different direction. And you said like, I lost all the growth that I had, which I don't think is true. I'm just going to call you out for that a little bit because
there's the dark night of the soul again. I'm like,
because it's like, maybe you were here, you moved up to here, you went back to here, but you didn't go back to where you started, to me, because as you just said, you're still working with some of those people. You still have people on your email list that came in through that, I'm sure, so there's still opportunities to sell to them, work with them, share all of that kind of stuff. So that's the nice thing about investing and growing an email list is that even when the ads are off for various reasons, you can still email those people. You don't have to lose everything when the ads aren't running.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like email, I can't think of a better thing to invest in at the moment because social media is changing. Apple services are changing. I mean, everything's changing. We have no control over what's going to happen with privacy laws, with this, with that. I mean, we just don't know, but email list, at least you have some sense of stability and sense of like, this is a key component of my business.
Yeah. Are you growing yours now? Like, do you have a lead magnet that you're promoting?
At the moment, I do not. I'm about to go into that again. Starting, what month are we in? April? Yes. So May. I had to delay a few months earlier this year, for some health reasons, but, yeah, I'm going to, I really love challenges. They work really well for me. because I like to talk about deep things. And so it's a nice way for people to get to experience that level of depth and playfulness, but also, deep work. So challenges I really like, they work well. I'm going to kick those off again next month. And those tend to be a great space for people coming for me. I think like for me, I've tried, I'd like to do a video funnel. I know you and I had talked about doing that last fall, a video funnel. But for me, the PDF thing hasn't really worked that well. And whether that's because I just haven't found the right way to simplify the things that we're talking about into a PDF that's digestible, which I think I will take full responsibility for that. I don't think it's other people's problem that the PDF isn't working. I think it's me that I haven't figured out the PDF for my particular business. But yeah, that one hasn't done really well for me in helping people take next steps. It works great in getting people in, but that's not really, to me, the point. Like a number on a page isn't really the point. It's about being able to go deeper and actually having transformation. So I'd rather we have an opt-in that allows for connection and expansion, even if the free thing's the only thing they ever do. And so for me, I'm leaning more towards the live things or the videos until I figure out how to perfect that a little bit more for people.
Yeah, I like that for you to do, to do the live thing. I guess I wanted to ask a follow-up question on that, because I know that you kind of felt burnt out after doing some live challenges for like, would you do 4 and 6 months or 8 months or something? Like, what are your thoughts on that now? Like, what are your plans to prevent that, or how are you going to do things differently so you don't end up in that space again?
Yeah, that's why I kept pushing it back this year, because I was ready to go in January and I just couldn't do it because I do have this association that last year I really burnt out. I think one of the things I was doing is I was having personal contact and free calls with almost everybody who joined the challenges. So that's, hundreds of people in a very short period of time. And that was really exhausting. It was lovely because I learned a lot. And so I do think there's still a time and place for that in my business, because I do feel like I'm still learning about the people I'm serving. So I really do cherish that live connection. But yeah, one of the things on my mind is, I don't know if I need a full 5 days. I know that 2 and 3 days doesn't really work for my work. It doesn't give people a big enough chance to really get me and get the work and really like get their head around what's happening. Because I think we put things off and we need extra time and we want to watch. And then we heard one thing, we need to watch more, all of that stuff. But I do think there might be other models, like maybe it's 2 full days and where it's 3 hours a day instead of a little bit here and there. Maybe it's every other day for a week. And so we have more time and space. Maybe it's me actually talking for less than an hour, which would be a miracle. So there's a lot of options that I've been thinking about, and I just haven't really settled on what's the right one. I have the sense that it's something a little bit shorter and deeper, like a couple hours, like 1 day or 2 days on a weekend, maybe. But I just haven't gotten my head around it. And I think the reason I haven't is because, like you said, the fear that I'm going to be exhausted afterwards. And I think that's the thing about live challenges is it's not the time itself. That week is awesome. You're expansive. You're holding all this beautiful energy. You feel so great. You take care of yourself. You sleep really well. You eat really well. But there's all the time going up to it and all the time after it. And so it's not just that time that you're live. And for me, it was doing all the calls in advance and all the calls afterwards, and then going into a program. And so I hadn't really considered where the sleeping was going to happen in that. So now I have a better framework. But I do think I think it would be really cool to have a mix of things. And like, I know you help people with funnels, but to have a mix of like, okay, well, here's a funnel that leads to calls. Here's a funnel that we use for a short period of time that we can turn on and off that leads to a live event, like a workshop or perhaps a challenge. Here's another one that leads to an opt-in, right? Like there's lots of different ways to go about it. And I think having a mix feels like the most supportive for me moving forward.
Yeah, I think that'd be great for you to have, because that the challenges can be effective for you. And it's great to have something for in between, especially because you don't want to be in a situation of trying to do too many challenges every year, you know?
Yeah.
So if you have something in between that's more evergreen and timeless, that is like a video series kind of thing, I think that's a great idea. And then you can keep growing maybe more slowly. It's like the slow burn when you have that evergreen thing. It's not as like immediate as the live, but then that's a way to balance like time and energy and
Right.
promote a variety of different things. The topics on the two things could be slightly different to like lead people to a different program or conclusion. But I think that's nice, when you're at the point that you are, to have both of those things going.
Yeah. And I really think that there's a big benefit in getting real with ourselves about what our business is like and what the rhythm of our business is. And I think I felt this huge push of like, it has to be now. We have to make this huge amounts. We have to make these huge amounts and big launches, because I saw a lot of people do that, but they weren't in the business that I'm in. They weren't in my business, at least. We weren't even actually in that similar of a field, but we're online. So they seem similar, and they're women too. But my business is about long-term growth. My business is about the long haul, like your lifetime. And so I think allowing the way that I work in the business to match the rhythm of the business, like that's been on my mind recently. And so having things that reflect the timeline of your work, the timeline of your business, and that not everything is like, let's just get this done and out. Some things take time. Some things have a longer arc, and that's okay. Maybe we need to build more trust because the work needs to build more trust. The people need to build more trust in themselves and you and everything. And maybe for some things that doesn't matter. And so we can just go and learn about something and move on. But in my work, there's a much longer timeline. And I think I can honor that by, like you said, building some maybe slower burn funnels.
Yeah. That's interesting too, when you're connecting with people on social media, which is a click, short attention span, and then inviting them into a different mindset from there, so
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting balance, how to do both. I feel
and I definitely got I have been seduced by the quick and easy, but it's not, there are lots of things in life that are quick and easy, right? But I'm like, it's not me. I am not, there's no part of me that's quick and easy. Like, it's just not true.
As I'm choking on my coffee.
Are you okay?
Yeah. That's what I get for drinking coffee while talking.
Yeah, I do think, I think when we really honor ourselves in our work and the way that we want to be in the world and the energy that we want to put out in the world. And by energy, I just mean like the way people feel when they interact with our work. Then it becomes a lot easier to think about, okay, well, what type of ads fit with that? What type of funnels fit with that? What type of ways of connecting with people support that and allow them to experience it? Because there are plenty of people out there who go on social media and would see something that's slow and calm and go, oh, thank God, everything else feels so pressured. Yeah.
That's true. I do see that. Like, I follow some people that give me that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's so nice.
So nice.
And I'm like, where do I find more people like this to follow, where I feel like, like relieved, comforted,
exactly.
or yeah, those are the people I like to follow right now. Not that people are like, push, grow,
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what I love, like, particularly about working with you. So I'm going to do a little side tangent to plug you, but like I really liked about working with you because you were really tuned into what was right for me and in my business and the people who I was going to work with. Like, it wasn't generic in that sense. Like, yes, you knew what worked and what didn't and what to try and what not to try and how to shape things, but it was really tuned into the type of work that I do And I think, that's what's so helpful about your focus. Like if you fall into the group of people that you work with, like you really get those people, and you really get how to help them express themselves without having to fit into some mold of somebody that they're not.
Right. Like I was saying of my own experience from several years ago of following this digital marketer guy's, email sequence and going, okay, well, this is what works, but it's like, well, I see the kind of the things he's doing here aren't a good fit for me, or like, how can we make this work, but for me, so yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the, thanks for the shout out. I felt like that was really fun, like what we co-created together. Oh, and I will put a link to, we had recorded a more in-depth visual kind of behind the scenes of some of those successful challenge campaigns last year. And I'll put the link below where people can see that if they want to see like the ads we're talking about. I had some screenshots and some numbers on what did well and stuff like that. So for anyone who is curious, what that looked like, we have that here too. That was a fun time. Didn't we both like tear up in that conversation?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Lots of laughter, definitely some tears. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was really special. It's knowing when you're ready for ads is such an interesting question, because like, to me, I'm like, I needed ads to grow, and I needed somebody else to do them for me because I wasn't capable of growing on my own. Right. That was the belief I went into with ads. And that's why I hired that company that did them all for me. And then moving to you, it was like, oh, okay, well, you're helping me now become the person who can be capable of having ads, who can be running this in a more, but even looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for that. Like I was not like you, and I don't know if you do this now, but you did a lot of hand holding for me. Like even in the middle of my launch, and I'm like, ah! And you were like, turn around, get on the camera, sell the thing. That's why you're here. You're doing all of this to sell the thing. So go sell the thing. And I was like, oh, right. Like I got so distracted by all the shiny things and all the confusion and the people. But yeah, just a lot of, I needed a lot of growing into, this is what we're doing. And the growth happens really fast. Like when the ads work, the growth is fast. And so all of a sudden I was in a very different world, and the way that I thought became very different. It went from like, well, how do I do this, to, oh my gosh, now we're just in a numbers conversation. And how can we reach more people and make it even more efficient? And when do we want to turn it on? And when do we want to turn it off? And what investment is it? Like, it's a totally different thought process. And so, that required me to change who I was almost overnight, and how I was in my business, from feeling like I'm not good enough and need a company to run everything for me, to holy cow, I'm actually running a business that's working and we're growing really fast. And it was within weeks. And so I really needed to step into that. And, in some ways that was part of the crash afterwards, and part of the like, oh my gosh, I need time off, because it was asking a lot to grow. So I think this question of, well, when do you know you're ready for ads? Well, you're ready for ads when you're ready for ads and you want to do them, but also you're going to be a different person as soon as you start doing them. You're going to be a different person as you go through it. So being mindful of that growth, and that we're stepping into like a different level of, now I'm a business owner on a whole other level, and it can go fast, especially when Deloitte does them really well, which she does. So hold on to your hats. I don't know what you asked that I started on that tangent, but yeah.
I don't either, but I love that story, and I love that share, because that's such a good thing to keep in mind. I used to talk about that more, and I think that's something I could, create some more content around. It is a big shift. Like everyone thinks they want it, like we're talking about having this comparison stuff sometimes with other business owners on social media. You're like, yeah, I want that fast growth. I want this. And then you get it and you're like, oh my God.
Like, yeah, no, I crumbled. I absolutely crumbled, because I was like, oh, great. So I brought in all this stuff. I hired these people. I had this team, and then it was too much information. I wasn't strong enough in what was right for me and my business. And so I hired too much noise coming in, and it just, I absolutely crumbled. I just couldn't sift through the noise of my own doing. And then on top of that, I had this one beautiful pathway that we were doing through the challenges to come into the business. But if people didn't join that pathway, I had very little else for them to do. Like I had different pieces, but they weren't connected to what I was talking about in a coherent enough way for people to understand, like, oh, this is a step towards that, and that's a step towards this, which is what I'm doing now, is building that coherency and foundation. So unless people joined the one, thing I was selling, which happened to be quite expensive, there wasn't a lot for them to do. And then I did some little things here and there, but they didn't build towards the big thing. So it was a bit of a mess. And it didn't allow for that feeling of like the river's flowing in one direction and everything's moving in the same direction, even if there's different moving parts to it. It ended up just feeling like there's a puddle here and a puddle there and a puddle there. And it's like, how do we get these puddles to talk and move? So I definitely think, looking at your suite of offers and how they go together and what are the different options for people if they say no, because no doesn't mean no just means not now. Right? Because if people are going to join your ads and connect with you and have a call with you, like they care about the work and they want it for themselves on some level. So what if they say no to that thing? What else is there for them? And I had not hit that level of maturity. And so I just didn't really have those pieces in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's in the marketing speak, that's the downsell,
right. And I thought I had those things, but not really. Not with a funnel in the background, not with a continual email sequence that helps nurture and support that growth from the downsell. So I had lots of people. I think we had, a lot of people take the downsell.
Oh, was that
the trigger? Yeah, the tripwire.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. Because you did have a bunch of things. I forgot the tripwire one. Yeah, that was on your thank you page. That's right. Yeah. Yes, people did get.
So it was a super downsell. It was like thousands to like 40. It was like a super downsell, but we had this tripwire, and a lot of people joined that. But I didn't have a nurturing email sequence to support the work that they were doing in that. That tripwire itself is like chock full of amazingness, but I just didn't build the support around it. So there's a lot of lessons, and that's the thing. I think had I been in a different place, like great, we would have just put all those in and catch up. And it's okay. It's okay that they're not there in advance, because you notice as you go, and it just would have gotten better and better and better. But I crashed.
And that's okay. It happens. And then you keep moving and you're still here.
I'm still breathing.
Okay. Let me ask this fun, kind of last question about your reclaimed guilty pleasure. What's something that you used to feel was frivolous or silly, but you truly enjoy, that you're now like, I'm doing it. I'm claiming it. I'm owning it.
Can I answer my business? No, I kind of mean that, because the number of people in my life who've been like, all you do is navel gazing. Like your entire business is just navel gazing. I'm pretty sure that's all you do. And I've heard that since before I started my business to now. And I'm like, oh, okay. So my entire work is frivolous to you. And so I genuinely feel like my business is a big one, because there's many close people in my life who feel like what I do is not really needed in the world, and I'm the only person who could benefit from it. So that definitely is a guilty pleasure, that if I let when I let myself go all in, and that I let myself even pursue what actually matters to me. And I also play a lot of online Scrabble with my dad, which is really fun. That's definitely one where my husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And I'm always playing Scrabble.
Oh, that's fun. I love that. I'm so shocked that people close to you, call it navel gazing. Like that's so harsh.
Oh yeah. You're the only one who needs your work. It's navel gazing. I'm pretty sure this doesn't matter to anybody else. I think this is just about you, all of those things. And for people who don't know me, like you might be like, oh, well, yeah, she sounds kind of messed up. She had that big emotional breakdown last year. But no, I teach, really deep spiritual principles that have been around for thousands of years. So clearly other people have cared about these things, but I definitely get that. I get that a lot. And it's really called into question for me, in those dark nights of the soul, like, am I the only one who cares about this? Is this even useful? Like, is there a point to this? So I definitely feel like when I let myself just say the things that I want to say and like actually express and put out in the world and talk about the things that I think really matter, it definitely feels like the daring guilty pleasure, because I know there are people who are like, Alexis again. And they have me on speed dial because they're that close to me.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad. I mean, I'm impressed that you keep going with that. Like, I don't really have anyone in my life that says things like that to me about my business at this point in life. I can't really imagine that would be hard.
Yeah. These are the moments where I wish that I was somebody who was motivated, like, oh yeah, well, let me show you, like I do. But instead I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. But that to me is a gift too, because then if I really let myself believe what I believe, like I'm allowed to believe what I believe. I'm allowed to think what I think. I'm allowed to say what I want to say. Like I'm in a position, luckily I'm in a very privileged position where I actually get to express what I want to express. And there really aren't consequences to it because I'm not spouting off horrible things that hurt people. I'm talking about ancient truths and religion. So to me, it is that, like, every time I let myself speak a little bit more, then I feel a little bit stronger. So there's so many benefits to it that I wouldn't get if it was just an open highway of support.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess you kind of worked that into, it's not so much I'll show you energy. It's just this is helping me stand stronger in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You know me, I got to make everything into an invitation to be more me.
Oh, I love that. I think about that a lot. I wish I remembered that more. Like even the things that we mentioned here about scrolling social media and feeling some type of comparison, like that too is an invitation. Because like, why would you wouldn't feel some emotion come up about somebody else's post unless there's something there for you, and that'll pop into my head every once in a while, the invitation thing. And I'm like, I wish I could like think of this every time this happens,
Yeah. Well, and especially with social media, because we think, oh, well, the invitation must be to be more perfect because that's what they're saying. And it's like, no. The invitation is to feel the feelings and be more with that and what's true, not to be more perfect. Because that's what I think we all fall into. We take the invitation, but we just take it with a heap full of shame. And it's like, nope, that's the wrong invitation. That's the wrong one. This wasn't a lesson of could you be more compassionate and kind and perfect in the world? Because that's the shame we all get every day. It's can I allow myself to be, with how I feel and with what's true for me, and recognize that like the reason this feels bad is because there's something off here. I don't like the approach. I don't like it's not authentic to me. It's not whatever it is. It's just that actually there's a part of us that's just really craving to be alive and within us, even if we don't express it, but to be alive. And I think that to me is the nice part about anytime somebody's like, oh, you're just navel gazing, whatever the offhand helpful comments are, I really get to be in this moment of yeah, does this actually matter? And the only answer to that is, well, yeah, because I keep hitting my head against it every day. Like it matters to me. And that ending is the only ending of a sentence that ever matters because I'm the only life that I got. So if it matters to me, well, that's the only life that I'm living. So, okay, it's to me.
That's enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's all the enough I'm going to get because it's the only person I'm going to get. It's the only perspective I'm going to get. It's just my life. So yeah, it matters to me.
Well, where's the best place for people to connect with you? Is it your Facebook group?
Yeah, my Facebook group is the place where I'm most active. It's called At Peace on Purpose with Alexis Pierce. And I think you can find it from any of my pages and from my
and I'll
website.
have the link too.
Thank you.
wherever someone may see or hear this interview, there'll be a link to that. So yeah, I'm in that group and I do enjoy it. I love that you've been, dang it, AirPod fell out again. I got to fix that. I was just going to say, I love that you've been more regular in posting there in the last like year or two, because I get a lot of inspiration just like seeing what you post there. So I definitely encourage people to join and check it out.
Thank you. I'll just share actually that the thing that I'm like, oh my God, this is when I invested in all these things and they all blew up. I was investing in learning and how to show up in my Facebook group and actually engage with people. So it was not a waste. It did not crash. It just changed focus. And so that was the thing. When you grow, you have more more things to focus on.
I just did that same thing. I didn't know. I wanted to say the like last podcast episode or something. I wanted to say focus, but plural. And I was like, what is it? Foci? Focuses? Like, I don't.
Clearly, we shouldn't have multiple.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why it's so awkward, because the word focus means there should be one, right?
That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This has been great. Thank you.